Kia ora, Toddy.
Kia ora.
Thanks so much for joining me on the podcast, mate. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while, actually.
Yeah, cool,
Mate, I would love to hear about the early days. Take me back to the beginning, those early years. Describe it for me. What was it like for you growing up?
I grew up in a middle class family in Wellington, actually.
Oh, okay.
And lived in Tawa, the great Tawa.
Jess lived in Tawa for a while.
Did you?
My Jess, yeah.
Whereabouts?
Well, I don't know. I just know that she lives in Tawa.
Tawa.
It's come up around the dinner table at a few times, but yeah, no, she did a bit of a stint there.
Yeah, no, I started my swimming in Tawa, and it's a Hindo's hottie.
Okay.
And then I started doing quite well at the old swimming, so opened a few doors, and then in those days when you were 18, if you hadn't made Olympics or Com Games, you were an old fella. So see you later.
At 18?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So you drifted off. You went to surf lifesaving, which I did for a while, or water polo, which I did for a while. And then once you hit 20, you can be a master. So I just carried on swimming as a master.
Okay.
And did that.
Well, it's a young man's sport, eh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's changed now.
Okay.
But I think I went to Tawa College, heavily involved in Tawa Rugby Club, played age grade rugby, wasn't allowed to play higher level because the wife wouldn't let me.
Otherwise, you would have gone on to be an AB, no doubt.
I don't know about that. But yeah, it's just and then I sort of drifted away from swimming, and I became a plumber by trade.
Okay.
Did my apprenticeship. I still did my master's swimming. And then basically one day I lifted a big manhole cover and felt this crack in my back.
Sure.
My legs went numb.
Really?
And I thought, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got to the doctor, and I'd ruptured a disc. The disc had,
in your back?
yeah, it'd come through and burst and pushed my sciatic nerve into some other stuff. And so there's some major dramas there.
So you couldn't feel your legs?
It was just all tingling, and
Sure.
so I was a bit worried about that.
Well,
So
that's been scary.
but then what happened was as I was getting better, obviously I was on ACC.
Yep.
But I'd go down to my local swimming Tawa pool, and I'd just walk up and down for a bit of rehab. And I was wondering how I'd get back into plumbing, because it was going to be a long-term thing. And my old swim coach popped his head out the office, and he said, "What are you doing?" Told him the story, and he said, "Right, come and teach swimming.
Yep.
I'll give you a job for 3 hours a week. Just get you, good, get you in the water, off your feet." I don't know, in 2 months I was working 60 hours coaching and doing all sorts of stuff. So
you fell back in love with swimming. Did you ever fall out of love with swimming? I mean, you obviously left it behind and focused on something.
never fell out of love with it.
Right.
Always enjoyed it. It was good for the head.
Yep.
A lot of people I know now swim for the head.
Yeah.
It's good for you. But I just love it. It's quiet, and I love the feel of the water running over you and that sort of stuff. And but that was in 1990.
Okay.
So she's 35 years this year coaching.
Wow.
So it's been a long time. And then before that, so it's probably more around 50 years I've been involved in the sport. So more than half my life. So yeah.
So that's pretty special. And you say you never went back to plumbing after that?
Only doing
Only a little bit. Yeah, right. Yeah. Little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah, did not put it in.
Fair enough. And so you've been swimming, so coaching ever since. So you're up in Wellington still at this point?
I did 3 years in Wellington.
Yep.
And then I got offered a job in Napier.
Okay.
And coaching a club up there called the Aquahawks.
Aquahawks.
They were gun club, and I went there and shifted the whole family up to Hawke's Bay.
Wow.
Lived in Onikawa and Napier, and just loved it. I was early 30s. Late 20s, early 30s.
It's a beautiful part of the country, Napier. That whole east coast is
Time of my life, mate.
Napier Hastings.
Yeah, and it was at the time that wineries started to open up on the weekends and bring out a platter, and it was just fantastic. And the people up there just tremendous. Gisborne, Wairoa, all up through there is just beautiful.
Yeah,
and really grew a lot there actually as a coach and as a person, and stayed there. I think I came to Christchurch 98, 99. And, but Napier were the best years of my life.
Really?
I learned so much as a person, as a coach, and I was actually the chairman of the local school board.
Yeah.
that my wife was teaching at.
Yep.
And met some interesting people through there, and it was brilliant. And
it's an interesting shift to make. Like you obviously go from being an athlete, an actual swimmer, you're very technical, and you know your craft, but shifting from actually being an athlete, doing the thing versus actually coaching, it's a totally different ball game. How did you go learning that?
So, and back then, I'm sure they still do it. We had an educational progression through Swimming New Zealand, and you know, you did courses and you did book work, and you know, you'd learned about physiology, psychology, technique, biomechanics, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And you studied it. I think I studied it 7 years.
Yeah.
Really long time.
Yeah.
And you started at level 1. Well, I think it's called bronze now. And then you work your way up to level 3 or it's gold now, which I am. And it takes you that time, and then you've got to start developing your own athletes to enable you to get these qualifications. So it makes you go out there and travel the world and see what others are doing. And
that's quite good. So it's not just a book course. It's very practical. You have to develop your own athletes.
That's correct. Yeah.
And so you have, from what I understand, worked with some pretty amazing swimming athletes over the years.
I've been very lucky. Yeah.
So tell me about that, mate.
I have a young woman who, Annabelle Carey, who came to me when she was 12, and she came from Nelson, I believe.
Okay.
And this was in 2002, and I was at Whānau there in Christchurch.
So you moved back down to Christchurch at this point?
I'd moved down, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I moved down in, I think it was 99. Okay. Can't remember. But Whānau was, you know, one of the clubs in the country, and that was the privilege to be part of that club. Actually, it's very good. And this little skinny little girl came along, and she swam quite well, and we sort of talked to her parents about this kid's got a lot of potential. Former gymnast. She could actually stand on the dive blocks and bend herself in half backwards.
The wrong way.
Wow. So it was incredible. So, which is flexibility is really important in swimming, and she had it. And by the time I think she was just about to turn 15, she qualified for Athens Olympics.
Wow.
And
at 15,
she's our second youngest ever Olympian to this day. And mate, she won't mind me saying this, but she was hard work.
Yeah.
She was had a lot to say for a young woman, which was fine, and kept me on my toes. And we experienced this amazing time of traveling the world, and then we hooked up with a guy called Moss Burmester.
Yes.
And who I actually just ran into last week, actually. And we traveled through Europe with Moss, and then into the Greek islands, and we did a month's training in the Greek islands. And then we toddled over to Athens, and away we went. Competed at Athens, and I think Annabelle might have been in the top 3 in the world for her age.
Wow.
So she didn't semi-final. She did really well. I think she broke the New Zealand record at the Olympics. Then we had Moss, and he semi-final at the Olympics, and broke a long-standing Anthony Moss 200 butterfly New Zealand record.
Wow.
And then, of course, Annabelle went on to go to Commonwealth Games, World Championships, as did Moss. And then Moss, of course, got 4th at the Olympics.
Yeah. I like that.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah.
So I met Michael Phelps at the Olympics.
Did you?
Yeah, nice guy.
Unbelievable athlete.
Mate,
one of the GOATs of all time.
Of all time, in any sport.
Yeah.
Lovely man. I met Roger Federer. I had lunch with Roger Federer.
Wow.
He's a lovely man.
Is he?
And it was quite interesting. I was sitting at the table just like you. And Moss had qualified for a semi-final, and we were literally sitting here discussing the schedule for the rest of the day.
Yep.
And a guy like you had a hat on. He goes, "Can you please pass the salt or whatever it was?" Yep, sure, mate. And I had a runner, Michael Aish, on the other side of me, and he's kicking me under the table, and he's doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Mate, I'm busy.
Leave me alone. I'm trying to focus."
Yeah. And Moss was focused and all this sort of stuff. And this guy said, "Where are you from?" I said, "New Zealand." And I looked at him and I thought, "You are familiar."
Yeah, I recognise you from something.
And anyway, he was just starting out, I guess, as a tennis player. And we just got chatting. He goes, "I'd love to come down to New Zealand." I said, "Yeah, come down, mate," all this sort of stuff. And he just sort of stood up and said, "Look, have a lovely day." I said, "Yeah, you too. All the best, man. All the best." And then he's
still oblivious to who
still oblivious. And Moss and I were still communicating.
Yep.
And then Michael Ash said, mate, that's Roger Federer. You've just been talking to Roger Federer. Look, listen. Bloody hell, it is too.
It's probably a good thing you didn't know. You might have fudged your words or done something stupid and made a fool of yourself. Who knows?
Well, I think that taught me a lot, that time in Athens and that particular moment. And when you go to the Olympics, it's another planet.
Yeah.
You are surrounded by tremendously focused, positive people. It's got an atmosphere of its own.
Right.
And it's like if anyone said to me, is there anything negative that happened at the Olympics, I wouldn't be able to tell you, because it's not even your thought process.
Really?
You're there to help. You're there to achieve. You're there to learn. It's just an amazing environment. And there's nothing like it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, you're surrounded by literally the best athletes in the world.
Yep.
They're all presumably trying to get to their very peak for this very moment.
Yeah.
How was something like the Olympics different from other competitions that you've sort of attended and participated in? What is so different about it?
It's just like I said, the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I'll give you another story. I roomed with a guy, Don Tricker, and Don is the coach of had just finished as the Black Sox coach.
Okay. Also
a guy I'd grown up with in the Tawa area. Very, very, very world-renowned coach in softball.
Okay.
And I got there, and the first person I met was Murray Hellberg, Sue Murray.
Yep.
Ian Ferguson, and then I saw Yao Ming. Overall.
Was he 7 foot something?
Yeah, mate,
huge,
biggest human I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I went to my room, and Donnie came in. He goes, "Oh, Toddy, how you going, mate?" I said, "Yeah, good." And he says, "Pretty cool, eh?" And I said, "Oh, I just met this guy." And he gave me a bit of advice. He said to me, he goes, "You're at the Olympics, and you're in a lead role. So," he said, "I'm going to give you 15 minutes to suck it, to get over all this, take it all in.
Yeah.
And then get over it and do your job."
Yeah. Okay.
And from that moment on, I thought, he's quite right. They're just humans. They're just people. And the people that you saw, Edgar Davids walking by, the football player. I saw some of the Australian in thought, those sort of people, very famous athletes, American basketball players. You're just thinking, geez, man. But they were just there for a purpose. They didn't want to be annoyed. They didn't want to be, and you were the same. You had to focus on what you were, focus on us.
I suppose you can't get overwhelmed, can you? Because like you're there for a reason. You're there to achieve and to do your very best.
Absolutely.
And in order to do that, you actually can't afford to be distracted by anything.
I had to focus on my team.
Yeah.
And, after the swimming had finished, we went to other sports and admired them for who they were and what they did. And, but,
So it's 2004, Athens?
2004,
yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, then I had a little break after that.
Did you need it?
Yeah, I was burnt out.
Yeah.
Mentally, I was just destroyed. I'd spent so much time away from home. My wife said to me, "We got to go to a school function for Samuel, my son." I said, "Oh, what's that for?" And she goes, "Oh, it's a concert thing." I just want to go to bed,
Right.
And she said, "You have to come. It's his last day of school." I said, "Oh, yeah." She goes, "Forever."
Wow.
And I just thought, wow. I remember taking him on his first day for his poetry and all that, and when he started at Kashmir, and I'd missed that whole time. And it really got me thinking, wow, man, I've got to sort my life out here and just back it up. So I stopped coaching and had a break, and then had another friend, Anthony, who was also an Olympic swimmer. He had bought King's Swim School off another friend of mine.
Okay.
And he said, "Look, do you want to be a silent partner?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." I did that before that. I was a silent partner, and then I said, "I'll come into the swim school." And then he said, "Actually, I want out."
Okay.
He's building a restaurant in town. This must have been, it was 205. He said, "I'm building a new restaurant in town."
Silly boy.
It was Moo, actually, in Litchfield.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, they had a few partners now. They had Shane Bond was in there.
Yeah, and his brothers. A few others. They did well, of course, got destroyed.
Yeah. That was a cool place, though.
It was really cool. Yeah. And so he sort of dropped my A into G and said,
"Yeah,
buy me out and get on with it." So, and that's exactly what I did. And we just flourished from there, really. We're in a little old pool up in Aidenfield.
Yeah.
Is it Middleton Grange or Cat?
No, it's at Aidenfield. It's now Aidenfield Christian school. Yeah. We used to go there.
Yeah,
back no, back in the day when I was at Te Whānau Tahi, that's where we went for swimming lessons.
I taught you.
Did you?
Yes.
Far out. So because we used to go there, and years later, Mum and Dad lived just across the road from it. So years later, when you had moved into what was at that time your new site, it's now your former site.
Yeah.
Because you've had a few moves. But you could actually buy a key.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but Mum and Dad bought a key for the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And so we would go over there frequently, not when it was King's Swim School, you guys had left. So yeah, I've got a lot of fond memories in that pool, mate.
It's still going.
No, it is.
It must be 120 years old, that pool.
Really?
It's the old laundry of the old, St. John of God or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was St. John. Oh, it does the trick though. Mate, I am, that's fascinating. And so we'll get into the King's Swim School thing in a moment, but I just want to backtrack and ask you about those athletes. You mentioned your very sort of first Olympic athlete. She was, I think in your words, a lot to deal with.
Mm.
Those, you've dealt with some world-class athletes, lots of national champs, people there at the very, very, in the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
When you say they're hard to deal with, do you think that you need a certain type of attitude in order to succeed at that level?
Yeah, I think you do. Great athletes make great people, and I've always believed that. But in their formative years, they need reining in a lot of the time because they are so good, and it's obvious that they're good. They can lose their way.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a job as a coach is to say, hey, it's okay to have a bit of arrogance.
Yeah.
It's okay to to want to win.
Yeah.
It's, and professional sport, that's very important. Excuse me, but you've got to teach them humbleness, and it doesn't hurt to get beaten once in a while. It's a good learning curve, and top international athletes, they learn from losing or a bad performance.
Yeah.
And you've got to teach that to them. It's not a natural thing for them, but when you go to Australia or America or something like that, you're going to get your butt kicked.
Especially in swimming, because there's only one winner. And, like if there's 8 lanes, if everyone's swimming, there's only one winner. There's 7 losers. It's not like in a team sport where there's usually one winner, one loser. You sort of got a 50-50 chance, all other things being equal. But, there are some sports out there, tennis, golf, swimming is one of them, where you actually got a higher chance of losing most weeks.
Exactly. And, look at Michael Jordan. He always said he lost more than he won.
Yeah.
And he missed more shots than he got in.
No one remembers those, though.
No. So, and it's the same with Phelps and Ledecky and even Lewis Clareburt and Daniel Loader. They got their bum kicked when they were young, growing up. And they were taught to be humble and to acknowledge the person that beat them, but learn from it. That's the big thing. It's like in life, business and anything. Disappointment didn't work out. What did you learn? And how are you going to transfer that to a positive thing and grow from that?
So how do you, I'm asking from a selfish point of view now, I've got a young man that I'm dealing with at the moment who has been winning all his whole life. He's been in teams that have just kicked ass his whole life. He's now in an environment where he's working very, very hard for a win. And so he's having to get very comfortable with losing.
Yep.
How do you deal with, from your point of view as a coach, what advice would you give to an athlete who
team sport?
Yeah, needs to learn how to lose properly?
Yeah, well, the team needs to learn. Everyone has to support everybody. But if you've come from a winning environment into an environment where you're struggling, they look at your performance. Are you stepping up or are you dropping down? Keep your standards high.
Yeah.
And if you've come out of that environment, you'll understand that winners keep performing. You don't lose the ability to perform. So if you keep your standards high, the team will come.
Yeah.
And that will change that environment.
Yeah.
The biggest trap would be to go, oh, bugger it, I'll just throw the ball around or whatever. I won't get too involved.
It's hard,
and it's very hard for a particularly young male in that environment. But you just got to look. Sport is about perseverance, it's patience. I look at Richie McCaw. If you look back to his early days, he was a great rugby player. Always was destined to be a goat. But he, as a captain, he had a lot of issues early on, with dealing with the same thing probably, like I seen him at press conferences, he'd, a bit grumpy and all that sort of stuff. But if you look at sort of early days, particularly 2007 when we got beaten by France, he was down, and Ted, the coach, I can't remember, Graham Henry, everything. But and if you looked at him later on in life, even after they'd lose, how he had grown in that 10 years, massive.
Yeah.
And he kept his standards going up all the time.
Yep. And
the team followed him. Artie Sabia.
Yeah.
I mean, look what he's done. He's come out of the Hurricanes environment, All Black environment, Moana Pacifica.
That's actually such a good point.
Yeah. And look how he drags that. He's one man. One man is not going to win a game for a team.
No.
But
he's forced everyone else to rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's taken them with him, mate.
Yeah, and a true leader will do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So lead from the front.
And to the arrogance thing, like arrogance, confidence, they sound very similar on the surface, but is there a difference, do you think, between an athlete who's arrogant and an athlete who just truly believes in themselves and is confident?
Well, you've got to have a bit of both, don't you, really?
Do you?
But you've got to have humbleness as well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you will get your bum kicked.
Yeah.
And you've got to accept that. And you got to learn from it. And but I think confidence is the key.
Yeah.
Everything's about confidence. If you believe in yourself and you believe in the people around you, you'll go all right.
It's such a hard balance to strike, because you do. I mean, I look at getting into that TV show, Drive to Survive.
Oh yeah.
And so there's 20 of the best, arguably the best drivers in the world.
Yep.
Driving around a track at 200 mile an hour, however fast they go. In order to be one of those drivers, it's hard to imagine that there's any space for humility. Like, you just almost have to be. You have to be so, not arrogant, but you've got to be so confident in your ability, because there's so many people lining up to take your place. But so it's a hard balance to strike. You want your athletes, the ones in the top 1%, which is what we're talking about here, ones at the Olympics.
Yeah.
You have to be a little bit delusional, almost, to believe that you can get there, because the chances are so thin.
Well, they are, but you've got to have a dream.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the goals, and you've got to plan it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
No.
And one of the best things in sport that you can do as a coach, as an athlete, as a club, and in business, as an owner, and etc., is surround yourself with the best people. That's what we did back in the 2000s with our swimmers, was that we made sure we had good physios, we had support from a doctor who's not going to say, take 2 weeks off, but give us some good advice on how to get ready and get us back in the water quickly. All those sort of people, support networks for the athletes, parents, helpers, physio, around it goes, just having good people to support you and encourage you in sport and business, you will achieve.
You'd think it's an individual sport, but it's far from it, eh?
Absolutely. People say to me, swimming's an individual sport. It's not.
Yeah.
We train as a team. I mean, I've just been to New Zealand Champs in Auckland last week, We went up, there was 10 of us, 11 of us, and we were a real team. Everyone got behind everybody. Sure, when you race, it's an individual thing, but, you've got relay teams, and, you've got that team support. When you're down, everyone gathers round.
Yeah.
When you're up, everyone celebrates.
Yeah.
So, that's a big team thing, and we all believe in each other, trust each other, and respect each other.
Yeah, good call.
And that's life, isn't it?
Wow.
Pretty much.
We'll try to do. So nowadays, mate, you're obviously you're in your third iteration of Kings. You're in a brand new pool, pretty state of the art, or pretty new take on what a pool could be.
Yeah, it's the only one like it in the country.
Tell us about Kings, mate.
So, we're in 218 Main South Road now, and it's looks like a circus tent.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to look at.
It's very cool. It was built in Canada. To double thickness material with insulation in between.
Yeah.
They dropped it into a container, and the mate Hamish and his crew, they came along and
put it all together
for us. Yeah. And took a year to build, put the pool in the ground, and put it up. Brought a guy over from Canada to America, I think, to show us how to do it.
Yep.
And away we go. So it's getting busier and busier and busier.
Yeah. So tell us what Kings does. What's your bread and butter, your core business?
Learn to swim.
learn how to swim.
We're teaching children from 6 months old. We're not teaching them to swim, but we're giving their parents confidence and the ability to feel safe around with their child in a pool.
Yeah.
We're giving them the tools that they need for at home bathing, the things they can do when they're at the pool by themselves. We're giving them tools, and then gradually from there we're teaching them confidence, and then we teach submersion, and then we teach breathing and stroking and all that sort of stuff we develop through that. Children that start early in the water, there's a Griffith University in Brisbane did a 3-year study on the benefits of that, and I was skeptical. We actually helped with that. We gave some money for that, and the results came out and they were stunning. It was just about children interacting with other children, the benefits of schooling and understanding was huge.
Yeah.
It's a big thick document, but turns out that a lot of these kids that they studied had gone on to be in the top 6 or 7% of education in Australia.
So educate, not swimming, just education in general.
Education in general, yeah. And of course, if you've got confidence in the water from an early age, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to learn all the basic skills, as you will probably remember going through. I mean, the hardest people to teach swimming is adults because they know what will happen if things go wrong. So they're very tight. You've got to really work hard to get them relaxed and confident in themselves and that sort of thing. But with children, they're a bit more used to things going wrong and dealing with it. We're adults,
That's like anything though. Adults are old dogs, hard to teach old dogs new tricks. I know that for you, it's not just a business though. Like you and I have had lots of conversations over the years about why swimming and in particular education and learning or teaching people how to swim, because like you said, when things go wrong, they go wrong. And we've got some pretty terrible statistics around drowning in this country.
It's not good. These stats, I can tell you now, probably a bit old, but there's one stat that really gets to me, and it's that 80% of people that drown had no intention of going near the water that day.
Right.
So accidents happen.
What does that mean? They didn't go swimming. Something happens. They ended up in the water and then they drowned.
Cars have gone off the road into a ditch.
Gotcha.
They're in a boat.
Yep.
Okay, and they're falling now. I'm sure they need to go near the water, but they didn't intend to go into the water. Boat sunk. Got caught in flood waters. A child can drown in a bucket of water in a dog bowl. And it's happened.
It's happened. That's what I was going to say. It's not hyperbole saying it's possible. Like it actually has happened.
It's fact. And and I always say to parents about swimming, if your child at 7 is riding their bike down Colombo Street, excuse me, and they feel overwhelmed and in trouble, they've got their cell phone, Mum, come and pick me up, I don't feel safe. Mum's there, bike's on the rack, home they go. If a kid's in water, in trouble, they die. That's it. That's the cold hard facts. No one's there to help them. No phones, nothing, and it's silent. They will drown silently, and that's a terrible fact. But that's why learning to swim at such a young age. I'm not saying you have to be an Olympic level athlete to be, and we call it safer in the water because you're never safe in the water. No one's safe, not even an Olympic swimmer. Anything can happen that you could knock yourself out or have a seizure or whatever. So you can only be safer. But we're not saying we're going to get to that level. All we want is for children to be able to, if they're in trouble, roll onto their back, breathe, yell for help, make their way to safety, or learn that stay relaxed. Someone will help you. And if somebody's got it, it's okay to put a lid on a Coke bottle and throw a empty Coke bottle or a bottle of milk or whatever, and that will keep them, teaching them those skills as well.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. And I have another story. Years ago, we were doing, at schools, we were doing River Safe. And we did a lot of the questions, how do you judge that a river is safe? How do you know the flow and the depth and all that sort of stuff, And kids, so I would throw sticks in and, all the normal stuff. And one guy said, I know, Google it. Not always that simple. Nah. But, that's unfortunately, that's a sign of the times. Just Google it.
Well, now it'd be AI, right?
AI, yeah. But
into ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think water safety is very, very important. I'm very sad that it's not government funded for schools, or at least, I was talking to Phil Major, and he was talking about it, and because school swimming, like most swimming pools drop 70% of the total cost to get group school lessons through, and hope that the kids flow on after that. But Phil said, how do I help with this? How do we help with this? And I just said, mate, supply the buses, because buses are businesses too. They've got to make money, but they're more expensive than the swimming lessons. So put the buses on, Phil. Get the kids to wherever whatever school chooses to go where. Throw them in a bus and take them to the pool, and we'll teach it.
The pools will provide the education, but you're right, it's getting them there. We're lucky at Aotearoa because we are literally right next door to Pioneer Stadium, so we've got access to that.
That's right.
But if you had to put the kids on a bus, I mean, it's hundreds of dollars to send a class
and
down the road.
And the thing that saddens me the most is these kids that are missing out. Funding's hard at the moment. There's not a lot out there, because we even thought about buying a bus and going and get the kids ourselves, but we've got to cover that cost. And we wouldn't want to, however, but we just need funding to help with that. But the sad thing is, when you get some of these kids to the pool, oh no, I've left my togs at home. There's a real stigma about it, and it's sort of, it's okay. It's okay. We'll look after you. We've got to get you in that pool.
There's only one way to learn, especially get in the water.
It should be compulsory. In Australia, it's reading, writing, swimming.
Is it really? It's compulsory in Australia?
Compulsory, yeah. And they pay a damn sight more than we judge. But and I know that because I have family that live in Melbourne, and their kids went through the swimming process, and there was no options. You're in. So
it does seem like a bit of an doesn't seem like it. It is. It's a massive risk that we're just kind of living with, when we don't actually teach our tamariki.
And it's a lot harder than just throwing somebody in the water and saying go for it. It's not that simple.
No, because like you said, you only get one chance. It goes wrong. Mate, I know from a personal point of view, you've been coming into Joe's now for a very, very long time, and we love having you. I've seen the whānau grow over the years, so you're not just sort of a father anymore, but you're a grandfather as well.
Very proud grandfather.
I know you are really keen to hear if that's changed your outlook on life. I mean, you sort of mentioned earlier when your son finished school, that was a bit of an aha moment. How's it been?
I'm 62 now, and
don't look a day over 50, mate.
Oh, love your work. And I'm starting to think about the direction I'm going in, and the club's going to go in, and we're trying to work a plan now. Just a bit of an exit plan for me.
Okay.
Because swimming is, it's a 6 day a week job coaching, or it's 5 days a week plus Saturday, Sunday at swim meets, and it's a very time consuming thing. Really enjoy it, but it's getting to the time now where I do need to start pulling back and spending time with my family and particularly my grandkids. I also have 2 grandkids in France.
There?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So my son lives in France, in Lyon.
Okay.
And I want to start getting over there to see my other grandchildren, or our grandchildren, Pam and I. But we're trying to work through a plan now to keep the club going. I love it, and I'll still always keep a finger in the pie. But there comes a time where I've got to give back to my own family. Of course, I spend a lot of time and hours with other families' children, and in some cases, I think I probably spend more time with their children than they do. And that's part of the sport, and that's how it is. And I'm now watching some of my ex-swimmers come through the swim school with their children, and they're getting older too. So but it's definitely time to start thinking about the road, where I go now after coaching, and but it's sort of thing I don't think I'll be able to let go very easily.
No, it's just a new season, I suppose, and you got some great people around you, like you said, about surrounding yourself with the right people, and it's all right. Take some of the pressure off your shoulders.
Got a great young woman around me at the moment who's really keen to learn, and
awesome.
She wants to take a more positive role in the club. So so hopefully she's fantastic. We've got a lot of time for her.
I'm curious as well. I should have asked you this earlier, but you know, when you're working with, in particular, some of those young athletes that you sort of look at them and you go, man, there's some potential in this swimmer. There's often parents on the side of the pool.
Yep.
What role does a parent, well, the ones that have done it the best, what role does the parent play in supporting the coach?
That you said it, support. You know, the parents that are the best are the ones that get their kids to training, get the kids home, listen to what I request of the athletes, and I understand that there's family things that take priority, and that's fine. But the ones that really get behind and support, sports, athlete, coach, parent, is that triangle.
Yeah,
and that's the line of communication. The best ones are the parents that don't sit at home and, oh, bloody Todd is not listening. What's that? I'm sure that happens in every sport.
Yeah.
They're the ones that saying, well, your coach has said, and the ones that get behind their kids and say, you're committed to this, you got to do it. They're the best type of parents. I used to shun parents.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I used to think they were a nuisance.
Right.
Well, some of them were over the top helicopter parents, whatever you want to call them. And so trying to work here, and they're really in your face intense, and that's just life. People are all different. But now I tend to more, I bring them in more.
Okay.
And that helps with that connection. It also helps with communication. Like I'll go away and have a team meeting at a swim meet. I'll invite the parents into the room, so they get the message that the kids are getting as well, and that helps them to feel part of the team and brings in that support. A lot of coaches tell parents, go.
Oh, yeah. I reckon if you do what you just described, which is bring the parents or the whānau into the conversation, my gut feeling is that they'd be less likely to try and do the coaching, on the side, because they know that actually the coaching's been done because they've witnessed it firsthand. Whereas if they are kept outside, they don't know what's happening on the inside. And so therefore they come in and they try and coach when actually that coaching's already happening. It's just that they're not aware of it because they're on the outside.
They're the ones that take their kids to the pool and in the weekends when you're not racing, they go and do 10 miles and, they're the ones that are actually destroying their kids by making them do that.
Right.
We professional coaches are professional coaches. They know what they're doing. They do things because they know the why. And sometimes parents
don't think that's enough.
Get in the way. Yeah. They get in the way themselves. Actually, it's a bit sad. I see it's in every sport.
Yeah,
every sport. So just my advice to parents is, whatever sport your kids playing, get behind them, support them.
Yeah,
support the club. Get involved. Help out,
but trust the process.
Yeah.
No, that's good advice, mate. When you're, we've talked a little bit about it, but when you're trying to coach a future national champ or a future Olympic athlete, what are the most important traits you think that you look for in order to know that person's got what it takes?
I'm looking for self-motivation. I'm looking for somebody with a clear plan. Or is willing to understand how to develop that plan. I'm looking for somebody around 13, 14 that when they're in the water, they glide. They have time. Great cricket players have time.
Yes, yeah.
And
they look like they're moving in slow motion.
Yeah, it's just like Martin Crowe. God grief. Man had so much time. He, it's like could wake up between a delivery, but it's just about seeing that connection with the water and the way that they hold that water, and the way they just train, they're committed, and it's, they're really good traits. There's some natural ability in there, but it doesn't have to be natural. The hard workers achieve too.
Yeah.
Sometimes the kids that have it easy when they're young don't survive because, as we were talking about before, they've started off at a high level, people work and catch up to them. And once they cross over and start beating those people,
they're on an upward trajectory, those hard workers.
And these guys don't like it because they've never really had to work hard for it. So they just go, actually, I think I'll go and do another sport.
That's interesting.
It's very, very common.
Isn't that sad?
It's very sad. And most of the time, if those naturally gifted athletes worked harder, they would be great great athletes. And I see it every day.
Really?
You know, and there's always your grafters, and that will eventually come to the, there's a guy, in Dunedin, Kane follows, lovely man. And I've watched him swim, for the last 12 years. He's been to, he used to swim in Auckland, and he went to Hawaii University, and he came, and he always just missed, you know, always just missed, but he was always back there the next year, always in great shape, always smiling. And last year he made Paris. He hit the time at Paris.
Wow.
And I went up to him after the race and I said, yeah, Kane, if there's one person that's deserved of what you've achieved, it's you. I've watched you persevere, miss by hundredths of a second, and you're always digging deep and finding a way to get there, and you've done. I said, that is awesome. That's a very admirable trait, mate. And he will succeed in life.
Well, I was about to say that, mate, because like even if you don't succeed at swimming or whatever the sport is, the skills that you develop along the way mean that when you do something different, or just in life in general, you're going to succeed because you've got the traits.
Well, you discover that it's not easy,
no.
You know, and you got to be organised. High school teachers love swimmers, they love rowers, they love tennis players. Any sport that kids have to get up early and put a lot into, they love them because they're very organised. Now that will carry on through their life.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to have their homework done. They've got to have their bags packed. They've got to have their lunch ready so they get up at 5 o'clock in the morning out the door, know that they're ready to go.
Yeah.
By the time they hit school, mate, they're alive.
Yeah.
Bang.
I've been awake for 3 hours and you're ready to go.
Whereas you get some kids that turn up 5 minutes late that have just got out of bed and they're half asleep. Their body, it takes 3 hours for your body to start and really get into.
Does it?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 hours. I think
sounds about right.
Yeah. It takes you a while to get going, you know, and swimmers and athletes like that, they get to school, man, they're switched on and they're ready to rock.
Do you think, and I'm just interested in what your thoughts are around, you often hear that story, or that narrative around participation and how we've sort of, as a society, we've really opened the doors and we say it's not about winning or losing, it's about participation. There is that, but then of course, those athletes that you have coached all the way to the very, very top, they don't necessarily, well, do you think that's how they see the world? It's about participation, or are they different? Are they cut from a different cloth?
Cut from a different cloth, I think, you know.
Yeah.
You know, what did Vince Lombardi say? He said, winning's not everything, it's the only thing.
Yeah,
and some of those kids have got that attitude. They are the most competitive. You know, if you had a matchbox and you were flicking to see how close you could get a matchbox to the edge of the table, they'd be up all night until they got it. He think half over. They're those sort of people.
Do you think we've tried to not beep it out of kids? But you know, what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm like that. I'm very competitive, and I see it in some of the people that I spend time with. They're very, very competitive, and I don't want to beat that out of people. I like it. I mean, like we've discussed, there's a fine line. You don't want to be arrogant, and you don't want to put other people down. But
it's a tough one because, you know, there are kids that will participate, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's lots of areas of life that I just participate in, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be great at everything.
Exactly.
But if you want to be a great swimmer,
you've got to work hard. And you want to win.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm getting at.
I think what I'm seeing over the last few years, actually, quite markedly, is I'm seeing parents not wanting to join the competition side of swimming because they're scared of their children losing.
Yeah, interesting.
They're scared of failure. You know, and like I said right at the start, it's how we learn.
Yeah.
We learn through our mistakes and we grow from that. And I'd see some of these parents and, oh no, we don't want to be competitive because, you know, they might not win.
Yeah.
You know, well, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it'll make them a bit. I mean, when you go for a job, when you leave uni or high school, you're competing for that job and you may not get it. I mean, how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah.
Because you haven't practiced it through life, you know, and you haven't experienced it. But, I've seen it, I guess, is it a dumbing down maybe? Or, you know, we don't keep the score and I don't like that sort of thing. You know, it's like we've got to keep it real and life's about winners and losers and perseverance and not so much winners and losers. It's about perseverance. If you don't succeed, try again. Was that the old saying?
Yeah.
How many times did bloody Ed Hillary have a crack at Everest? You know, a few times, and he finally got there.
Mm.
You know, if he gave up after the first thing, well,
no one would know who it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think education, and my wife's a teacher.
Mm.
I know that you've got education just in your family, and you know, sometimes they've got to play to the wider group, which is let's just have a go and that sort of stuff. I had a story of a boy athlete I had, very good athlete in early 2000s, New Zealand representative, and he was racing at his high school swimming sports, and they told him, please don't swim fast to make the others look bad. Oh, are you kidding? And his answer to them was, well, the good runners, are they told to not run fast at running athletics day? You know, so he goes, oh, okay. And he swam the race so hard that his record that he broke that day still stands.
But he didn't listen.
It still stands.
Where does that ISDO come from? I hate it, mate. I really hate it.
Yeah, it's making it harder to, you know, as a coach, all I want to see.
You just want to see effort, don't you?
I want to see people trying.
Yeah.
And having a go, not being scared, you know, building confidence. I want to see them build that confidence, because they will get it eventually. You know, lots of skills in my sport takes time. You know, we're teaching young children, and we're teaching the athletes at the highest level the same skill, because they've still not got it.
Yeah, right.
Or as a coach, all we want to see is effort.
Yeah.
Or we celebrate the little steps forward with them.
Yeah.
You know, and they feel chuffed when they get something like a tumble turn. You know, they feel great when they can do that. And that's just a small stepping stone, but you know, we want them to keep persevering at that
and progressing. Yeah.
Progressing, get it right. You know, and eventually it'll just happen in your sleep. You know, because everything. Automation. That's what we're aiming for, isn't it?
Absolutely.
For the athletes. So yeah, but
no, it's interesting, mate. Hey, what's what gets you out of bed at the moment? What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to at the moment?
Oh, I'm on a bit of a break actually at the moment because of last week. But I just enjoy getting out of bed and watching youth come to the pool and wanting to get better. And my older athletes, I love getting out of bed to those guys. They've got the music pumping and ranges from anything from 80s to Kanye.
Is that while they're in the pool, you mean?
Yeah, they bring a ghetto blaster and away they go.
Cool.
It's great. I'm just pushing forward, and I'm looking forward to getting a plan together where I can look at the future and I just want to, I want to walk away saying I've done my very best for the people that I've been involved in and hopefully I've made a difference in their lives. So,
I think you've made a massive difference, mate. So, look, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and share some of those stories with me.
Been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah, you're a great man.
Thanks.
And you're a great coach as well. And you've got a wonderful whānau. Yeah. I often think you can tell a lot about any parent, a mum or a dad, by looking at their tamariki.
Yeah.
And every interaction that I have with you, Pam, all your tamariki, your grandkids now, you're a great man, mate. So thank you very much for being such a wonderful customer for many, many years.
I love your establishment and your Joe's Garage, mate. There every day.
Yeah, I know you are, mate, and I don't take that for granted. So really appreciate you and thanks for being such a good man and for agreeing to come on the podcast today. I've learned a lot about you.
Kia ora, mate.
Kia ora, mate.
Awesome. Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Anton.